everyone. I have the incredible privilege today to introduce you a very talented young woman with a pretty hefty resume of various jobs that she has held in the film industry. Everything from acting to production assistant to set designer to game show tester. I also have the honor of calling her my daughter. This is Jessica Heckert. Welcome, Jessica, and thank you for agreeing to chat with me today.
Thanks. I'm excited.
Me too. All right. So I want to start off with if you could just kind of give us some brief background, like how did you get involved in the film industry? What really sparked that acting bug?
Okay. Well, I always knew that I wanted to work in film, like even when I was super young. I just thought it would always be just this fun thing to do. And when I got into youth group with my church, so like middle school, we started doing drama skits and, acting on stage and stuff. And I just fell in love with that. And I fell in love with acting. Going into high school, I did all of the theater, musical theater, those kinds of productions. We did some off-Broadway things. And my mom, helped me get a lot of auditions for independent films. And so once I started auditioning for those and working in independent films, I realized I love film. I love working in film. It's what I want to do. I didn't really know coming out of high school if I wanted to go right into acting in film or if I wanted to learn a little bit behind the scenes. So I did end up going to college for that, for film, and learning the crew side, which helped me with acting, and acting helps me with the crew side, and I fell in love with all of it. So, yeah.
Okay. So right now you're living in Atlanta. Now, why did you choose to go to Atlanta as opposed to, say, New York or Hollywood?
Yeah, so there were three places that were big. It was New York, LA, and Atlanta for us, and for my husband and I when we were deciding where we wanted to go. And ultimately we decided Atlanta because it's huge here and not a lot of people know about it. Like even the people that I graduated with, there were me and two other people that came to Atlanta, and a bunch of people said, "Why are you doing that? There's nothing here." Well, no, there is a lot here, and it's because not many people know about it, but there's a huge tax incentive here that makes it cheaper for productions to film here. So we actually have more productions filming here than in either of those other two locations. So, and it's cheaper. It's so great.
So I also wanted to ask, I wanted to go into the various kinds of work that you've done in the film industry, but we'll probably get a chance to talk about some of those background things later on. What I want to focus on first is the acting that you've done, either acting in the traditional sense that we would know it, or even the background acting, things that you have done in film and in television. Can you give us some ideas of some things that you've done in that field?
Yeah. It's a lot. I've worked on a bunch of film and TV shows that are here. I have to look down to remember all of the things because it's a lot. So I have I've been a stand-in for an actress on MacGyver, which was a pretty interesting experience. That was just a one-day kind of thing. I was filling in for someone. And then I've worked on Instant Family, which I had a small part for, and got to meet a bunch of the big actors in that. And that was really cool.
You can name drop Mark Wahlberg, right?
Mark Wahlberg, yeah, I ran into him. And what other things? I've worked on blah blah blah. The second Goosebumps. Stranger Things was a big one that I worked on. Yeah, those are the ones that are popping into my mind right now.
Okay.
But yeah, I've worked on a lot of stuff.
Okay, you also had like a couple of things that were on the cutting room floor.
I had auditioned last year for this one film. I can't remember the name of it right now, but Bruce Willis starred in it. And I think it's coming out soon. But it was like a drug addict, and my audition, I guess, was great. I think I was super sick that day, so it was easy to like, I don't know, to believe. And so, and I was either one of the finalists to be casted in this role of this drug addict, or they just weren't sure if they were going to film it yet. So I think it was like one of two people in this particular role, and they were just still deciding. And it finally got to around the time that they were going to film that scene, and because it was not a huge scene, they ended up cutting it before using me. But you know, things like that happen. There's a lot of no's in the film industry, and you just gotta brush it off, keep going,
go with the flow. You also mentioned you were in Instant Family, and I was so excited to be able to watch that in the movie theater and see you in those final scenes. And could you just kind of briefly talk about like how you got that part?
Okay, so I worked with a casting agent. I have a casting agent, and I work with a couple of different companies with like background and just, you know, small parts. And I think with that one, I had sent in my reel and my resume and a couple of pictures of myself. And the director got to pick the final person. It went straight to the director instead of the casting director. So this was like a little different one. And yeah, I didn't really know what I was expecting. Like I knew who my character was, but there was like, I didn't realize like, you know, that I was pregnant in it. So that was a fun surprise.
And what was the name of the guy that played your husband in Instant Family?
Charlie McDermott. He's super sweet, super nice. He worked on The Middle. He was one of the sons in that TV show.
Okay. All right. Yeah. Also, so I don't know if you want to talk about this or not, or just being very subtle about it, but I know your favorite shows was Stranger Things, and it's one of my favorite shows too. Your experiences with Stranger Things working as a background actress.
Yeah. So, I mean, okay, there were like ups and downs, right? I ended up getting a perm for the show. They had most of their core people get perms, and just you had to be okay with whatever they gave you. And so they gave me like super tight curls, and they gave me 7 layers, and there was no hiding that I was in an 80s show for the next year. Like it was bad, but they messed up on my perm, and so I ended up having a bald spot in the back of my head. It took forever, and my hair is still, what, 2.5 years later, still recovering.
Oh my God.
But yeah, I got to work with a lot of people, a lot of the kids I worked with, and it was still exciting.
Yeah. Did you actually get to see yourself there?
I did, yeah. When it came out last year, and there were a couple times that I was like, ooh, that's me. Oh, I'm in the trailer right there. That's my hair. I know it is. You may not think it's me, but that is me.
So have you kind of given up on background acting now?
I mean, probably, but mostly because I now work as a set dresser and a prop assistant. I buy all of those I buy like anything that you see on screen that is not the actor. That's what I work with, and the pay is a lot nicer than backgrounds get paid.
Okay, so we can transition over to that. You mentioned about set design. Is there anything that we would be familiar with that you've done set design on?
So most of my set design stuff has been in commercials. And they're just like, they're kind of easier to work with if you have family, because they're shorter term and like you could just, do as many as you want. And so I've done a lot. I've done Pizza Hut. I've worked with on a lot of Shaq's stuff. So like, yeah, Shaquille O'Neal. On his like the general shoots and what else? I've done some NFL things and some like house design stuff.
And you met Will Smith, right?
I did. Oh, yes, that is the big one. I did the promos for Aladdin last year. That was pretty awesome. Yeah, and Will Smith is super nice, super funny. Like, he is who he is.
Yeah. All right. You've done some reality shows too, like the production side of reality shows. Any memorable experiences there?
Oh gosh, I worked on so many. So one of my favorite ones was called Spy Games. And that I was a game tester. That was my role. So they had because it's a spy kind of thing, they had these crazy challenges. And in all game shows, you need to test out before you let people, like, just to know that it's safe. So, like, first they'll test with like dummies or some like sandbags or something, and then they'll test with the crew, which was me. And so one of those that I did was, we were at the top of a 12-foot building and just like dangling over, and we had to answer we listened to like a recording, some spy recording, and we had to answer questions from what we heard, and then they drop you. And I think it was 12, it might have been 16 stories, I can't fully remember. Either way, it was scary.
Oh my goodness, that's
the most memorable one.
What?
That's the most memorable one I could think of.
I could imagine so, yeah. I know that you've also done some kind of, maybe this is part of the production assistant roles that you've had, but like even kind of doing like, I don't know what you would call it, but maybe security types of things, or kind of managing people for America's Got Talent.
Yes.
And then one time in Atlanta, I remember you talking about something that you were doing, holding people back away from a set.
Yes. So most of that is production assistant type of stuff. They do all the dirty work, which is, keeping people away, lying to them and saying it's a boring commercial. It's a mayonnaise commercial. It's not something exciting, which I did with Vampire Diaries.
You thought it was a mayonnaise commercial, and you're really filming Vampire Diaries?
Like, this Vampire Diaries? No, it's a mayonnaise commercial. And then they're like, oh, okay. And then they leave. And there's like Stefan over there. And anyway, there's also talent handler, which was the America's Got Talent thing. So working with talent there.
Okay, that sounds really cool.
Yeah.
So in the name dropping category, like which celebrities, we already mentioned Mark Wahlberg and Will Smith and a couple of others. Any favorite celebrities that you've come across, memorable experiences with them?
Oh, there are a couple. One of them is Tracy Morgan. I worked with him on What Men Want. And I just remember one time that we were walking and we were supposed to be walking to set, and he was like, hey, let's go to this area over here. Like, I want to see this. And it's always stressful because you're like, but my boss told me I need to take you to this one spot, but you can't tell them no. So he like walked, we were at the Mercedes-Benz Stadium, which is huge. And we walked into the stadium, and it was just his assistant, him, and me, just in like on the turf or whatever you call it, in the huge stadium. It was just us in this whole building. It was pretty cool. So that was a fun experience. And then Frida Pinto, she did Slumdog Millionaire. She's doing a lot of stuff now. I was her personal assistant a few years ago, and I drove her everywhere. I was always on set with her. I learned a lot about acting, about being a businesswoman, and a lot about my health. And a lot of the things that I learned from her, I still use today.
And you even got to travel with her to Oregon to go on set, to go on location.
Yeah, that was pretty cool.
That is pretty neat to be able to do that. Okay. So how would you suggest for people who are interested in the film industry, how would you suggest that they would get involved in doing any kinds of these background production or even in acting? What kind of preparation would be necessary?
Networking is the biggest thing. And so that's going on social media and trying to find different networking events to attend and meet people. And also Facebook, any social media, even just there, that's where you can network really well. I advise people not to, if they haven't directed, like if they've only directed short films or student films, don't tell people that you're a director, because it's just not going to work well. But yes, networking events are crucial. And then when you actually start working on jobs, talking to people and just being fun, but also working your butt off, that's another great way to network. And I mean, for me, my first 3 jobs came from Facebook. I found a post, they needed someone, I talked to them a little bit, I got those jobs, and then from then on, almost all of my jobs have been because I've worked with someone, maybe I worked with them 2 years ago, but they still remember me and will ask if I'm available. So yeah. And also have a resume ready. And even if it's just student films or short films that you've worked on, it's okay to put those in your resume, and just, say the resume, say who the director was. If it was you, that's fine in the resume. As long as people see you were working on stuff, they think, oh, they already know what they're doing. I like hiring production assistants that already know what they're doing. And then, yeah.
Yeah, with terms with acting, would you recommend a reel or getting in touch with some kind of a agent?
So reels are super important. If you don't have anything to work off of, I suggest meeting other actors and putting even like a small scene together and, just filming that scene and just really doing stuff that would showcase you. So with the reel, it's not always about like the story of the scene. They just want to see how you act. And so having a reel is super important. And then if you are wanting to get an agent, what I did was I found Atlanta agencies and I applied to so many of them. I spent days and days finding people, and also taking classes. Taking acting classes are super important. That's another great way to network.
Okay. Thank you very much. So I know we have this pandemic in the world right now, and it's greatly limited your ability to even do production work and the ability of the film industry to really produce new content. So what do you see as next for you? Like, let's say 10 years down the road, where do you want to see yourself?
Oh, man. I never know how to answer that, because I honestly like to live in the moment, and I love what I am doing. I love it. Getting to style for things is wonderful. Having someone above me who gets all of the stress and pressure of having it perfect is great, because I do not want that pressure yet. I'm sure in 10 years time, I will be all about that and will be fine with all of that pressure and having the final say. But yeah, I don't know. For now, I love buying all of the things and helping design. Acting, I would love to work in some commercials, at least, in more commercials. It'd be super cool.
So movies and TV, is that still on your radar?
Yeah.
Maybe Walking Dead.
Oh yeah. I forgot that I worked on that promo. I worked on a promo for Walking Dead, and that was super fun. And I got to be on the set that no one can get into. And that was really cool. Mm-hmm. And I got to know like the new bad guys before anybody else did. That'd be really cool to work on.
Yeah, I'm sure.
they work in very stressful, very hot conditions.
Have you had any thoughts as to maybe someday directing or even screenwriting?
I don't know. I originally loved that idea, and I would do that for smaller things or indie things. But I think I've learned more and more that I enjoy not being the one that has all of that pressure. I don't know. I just love going with the flow, and I love being happy. Yeah. So, not saying that directors and screenwriters are not happy, but like you have to really love stress.
A lot of pressure. Yeah.
Yeah.
You're not interested in going stage things at all anymore, really?
I have thought it would be fun to go back into acting for theater. And I know some people that work in theater. I'm not opposed to it. I never want to say never with those things, but it is difficult to do theater and work in the film industry because, so this is something that is important because I didn't really know this when I was in film school. Freelancing is a huge thing with the film industry. So, I mean, it's kind of rare that you work with one company full time. I mean, we do have some of those opportunities in Atlanta, like with Turner, or it's called Warner's Media Studios. That's TBS, Cartoon Network, a bunch of things. So most of the time when you're working in the film industry, you're freelance. So you have to be comfortable knowing that you may not know when your next job is coming, or you may have a week where you're not working. And you may have a week where you're working 80 hours, and it can get really crazy. And just as long as you are able to be, with the flow, going with the flow, whatever, it definitely helps with sanity.
Okay. All right. Thank you so much, Jessica, for taking the time to talk with us today. I'm sure my students are going to love listening to your stories and the things that you share with us today. Even if they're not interested in getting involved in the film industry, just hearing some of those stories and some of the really cool things that you're involved with. So
I'm glad I could help and interview, be here. I'm weird, sorry.
All right. Yeah, thanks a lot. We'll talk soon.
Okay. Sounds great. Bye.